Well, hello and happy Thursday to everybody. Welcome to season one, episode two of Cloud Foundry Weekly. Man, we've got a great show for you today. So, I know, Nick, this is a topic that's close to your heart. We're going to be
hmm
talking Gen AI today. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, hopefully you all have heard about this thing called generative AI, and there's a lot of different, kind of buzzwords and things going out there in the market, and there's this, little thing called Chat GPT that kind of took everyone by, storm. Was it like a year ago? Maybe a little bit over a year ago. I don't even know when it happened, but it seemed to kind of revolutionize the world here. So,
Yeah, I
that
mean, this is a technology, $733 billion industry by 2027 is what they're predicting, right? We're looking combined annual growth rate of what 42% between now and 2027. I mean, this is huge. You look, AI is in everything. It's in cars, it's in webcams. I mean, refrigerators are talking about putting AI in now.
hmm
So AI is it's like the new Internet of Things. It's going to be everywhere you look, and with that comes challenges. When you look at stuff like you mentioned Chat GPT, right? We've got companies out there now that are already putting restrictions on Chat GPT because it's a large language model, and they
hmm
don't want people putting proprietary or sensitive information in there to get information back out. So
Right,
I
right.
think that was kind of the point of what you guys were doing. I mean, the Gen AI tile that we're going to be talking about, that was the hackathon winner for this year's VMworld Explorer, right?
Yes, at the VMworld Explorer Las Vegas hackathon. Yeah, so we were lucky enough to have a pretty awesome rockstar team join our Taz efforts, and we have some special guests with us here today on that topic. But yeah, uh, we should probably bring in our guest and get started and kind of deep dive in this whole world with generative AI and what we're doing with Cloud Foundry and Tanzu Application Service.
Sounds
Right.
good. You wanna bring in Amelia?
Yeah, let's do that here. Let's see if I can remember how to do this here. There we go. All
Uh,
right, here we go. We have Amelia Downs joining us today, and she was on the hackathon team, and she's also a contributor within the kind of Cloud Foundry ecosystem. So if I'm reading your bio correctly here, Amelia, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've been an engineering contributor to Cloud Foundry since 2016. You're a tech lead for the app runtime platform working group within the Cloud Foundry community, which that covers Diego, Go Router, Garden, etc. You're also a member of the technical oversight committee for the Cloud Foundry Foundation, and last but not least, and maybe most notably, you are the lead designer for the Spring Music Taylor's version for the application. So do you want to kind of introduce yourself and add in any other color that I might have missed in your experience?
I know you got the most important bits. It's good to see you all. And it
Yeah,
was great being on the hackathon team with you in Vegas and Barcelona.
yeah, it was
Maybe
great.
the other thing that I am known for is writing curriculum, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later too. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Okay.
will say that Amelia is my go-to person when I have questions about networking when it comes to Cloud Foundry and Taz, right? There's nobody better to help you out with questions than Amelia there.
Okay.
thanks, Nikki. Yeah, we've been on some Harry support calls together.
That's true. All right. And we'll bring in Long Nguyen. So Long, I'll go ahead and introduce you. So Long's been a Cloud Foundry Bosch user since 2014. He's been a developer on Bosch since 2021. You've probably seen him speak. He's done a couple of speeches at Cloud Foundry Days. Stem cells are now jam-packed with jellyfish. We've got Cloud Foundry and KH are like peanut butter and jelly. And you were, the zero to hero training at one of the CF summits. You also started the Go CF client for anybody that wants an application that has to go in and, talk with the Cloud Foundry APIs. And you were a team lead and cloud architect for Stark and Wayne, and everybody knows Stark and Wayne. So, and dare I say, you were kind of the genius behind the AI ML tile. You did a lot of the GPU work, yeah?
Yeah, I kind of started all of it. ChatGPT became popular and all that. It all started with like kind of a conversation that I had with my brother-in-law. He's a teacher in Sacramento, somewhere in Sacramento, and he was saying how he started to use ChatGPT for all this stuff. I was like, wow, it's kind of crazy to like start seeing a teacher use this to kind of like summarize stuff and it's like do all this stuff and start down this path of like, what is a large language model? What is ChatGPT made out of? And then it's like, all right, how do I like run any of this stuff? Yeah, and I can kind of go in the whole story if you guys want.
Yeah, go for it.
Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I started kind of like, hey, can we even get a GPU running on Bosh, right? And that turns out to be okay. We can boot up a GPU, but then the drive was really odd, right? We have a lot of like issues with the boot disk, and once you finally get the drivers working, you're like, okay, so what do you even do with a GPU? So I started messing around running Cloud Foundry with the GPU and trying to get Diego running with the GPU, which kind of worked, but I had a lot of issues that when you started pulling in all those GPU libraries and Python libraries to run any of this stuff, it's 20, 30 gigs images. So Diego didn't do a great job pulling all that. So we kind of started on a different path and started looking at, hey, what a software we could run. And then I think I came up with a model to kind of run a large language model on a Bosh VM, right? Like Bosh is great. It's multi-cloud. We can run it on vSphere. We can run it on GCP. We can run it on Azure. So all the different IaaSes. So it ended up working out really well. And then Nick took wind of this project, and it's kind of taken off since.
Yeah, I guess this marketing people got a hold of it, and here we are now, right? And I guess too to give the listeners, if you're not familiar with Bosh, right? Bosh is the infrastructure automation engine behind the scenes within the Cloud Foundry ecosystem, and it kind of does the provisioning and the life cycling of all the machines and everything that gets built within Cloud Foundry. So, and if you had asked me a year ago if we could probably do this this kind of GPU or ML or AI work within Cloud Foundry, we probably would have just said no, because we didn't have that support. So your work kind of enabling that kind of unlocked this whole new world really within our ecosystem. So thanks for doing that. And I think we'll have a lot of great customer stories to share here in the near future, as you already have some folks using our beta today. So that's great to hear. And then one more thing too, since this is our second episode, but we started this last episode, but we wanted to I guess also introduce or ask questions to our guests of, when either do you remember the first time you ran a CF push, or since you're both contributors to actual Cloud Foundry, what was your first commit or contribution to the project? And kind of, can you give us a little bit of background there, before we get too deep into this AI subject as well?
Yeah, my first CF push was probably in 2014, around the time when I started kind of like getting involved with the community. I started employee number 3 at Stock & Wayne, so we were kind of like a Bosh consultancy trying to get people up and running with Cloud Foundry. And it was just kind of like such an eye-opening experience, because it was like, hey, Heroku was a really cool thing, but it's also expensive. That's something so open source. Back then, we didn't even have Garden. It was DEA, and like the deployment of that was just so hard. My first contribution was actually to the Gold Build Pack. Back then in 2014, back when Go was 1.4.
Wow.
We are 1.22 now. So
yeah, I bet Amelia has some things to say about Go versions and things. For sure.
That one's a long time ago.
Yeah.
My first CF push I remember so I interviewed for Pivotal in 2015. My first interview was with David Stevenson, who still works on Cloud Foundry, of course. And I went into the interview and I told him straight up, I was like, look, I looked at your website. I cannot figure out what Cloud Foundry is. I just don't know what this product is. Like, I had friends that worked at Pivotal. They loved it. I was like, I like the culture. I think I want to work here. Cannot understand this product. And so he showed me my first CF push. And at the time, my job before was my first engineering job. And we had our custom little pet VMs that we would SSH onto, and we would use Git to pull our new code, and we would manually stop and start our app. It didn't have to be highly available or anything like that. And so seeing the CF push was definitely like, oh, wow, I didn't even know this was possible. So it was a very powerful moment. And my first commit, I was initially put on the Diego team in 2016. And we had just transitioned away from DEAs to Diego, and we were getting rid of etcd for the database, and they were moving to MySQL. So it was
I remember
part of
that.
that part of that whole process.
Yeah.
And that was my first time writing in Go. So I know I do a lot of stuff. I'm known for Go now, and I've done some Go contributions. But I was originally a Rubyist, so I saw them writing these SQL statements by hand when I'm used to doing Rails, and I was like, "What is this?"
Oh wow! So yeah, that's awesome.
It's always interesting when people talk about their first CF push, right? You hear powerful, changing, and I think everybody kind of feels that way. I know that's what I fell in love with the product.
Yeah, and 10 plus years ago or more, to some degree. I think mine is maybe a little bit more far ago. It just still holds so much power still, and like still so valuable to the developer community, and really kind of the platform engineering community as well. So it's great to see that still be a very relevant thing.
And dare I say, nothing else can touch it, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've got a lot of people that try to copy it, but nothing else can touch it today.
I would also agree on that statement for sure. Now, I guess we could take that magic, right? And we really, kind of wanted to bring this world of generative AI into the Cloud Foundry ecosystem, and within the Tanzu Application Service ecosystem. So we kind of went with the hackathon idea, right? And most of Long's brilliant work, we were able to take and kind of move that into the product side. So we do have a open beta for what we call GenAI for Tanzu Application Service. So it's an add-on tile that you can consume and add on to your or bolt onto your Tanzu Application Service ecosystem. So should put a link into the show notes and the chat here about if you're interested in what you see here today. You can sign up and get in queue for the beta. There's a sign up form, and you kind of get in line, and we'll get in touch and get going here. So I guess where do we want to start at first? Do we want to like see it live and kind of talk through it, or what do you think here? We can do maybe a little bit of demo and then kind of expand upon what we see. Or do you have any other questions?
I got some questions before we even jump in, right? So okay. I know, Long, you were talking about, hey, this kind of started out as a Skunkworks project, right? Can we do this? But when you were looking at and trying to get into this, did you consider, were the considerations of AI and some of the challenges that we're seeing today a part of that? For example, we know, like I had stated at the start of the show, that some companies are banning the use of ChatGPT because people are putting in sensitive information in there, or company proprietary information, which is what brought around this kind of idea of private AI, being able to do AI, but keep it in-house. Was that a consideration when you were coming into building this out?
Yeah, it's a huge consideration just because a lot of this is just like sending stuff to ChatGPT was not a great solution. And everyone who's been running Taz has been running Taz for so long, right? Like we have such great customers and great users of Cloud Foundry as a whole to kind of run upon this, right? Like when we start thinking about this, is like, what is the next generation of applications that are being built here? It's like, hey, we need bots to like consume data in a way to like interface with like customers in different ways. So this is kind of a way, hey, we can bring this service to our Cloud Foundry, our Taz, and run it within our firewall, and we're sending no data out. We can store our own embeddings and all these different data. So overall, the consideration was just like, how do we bring this behind someone's firewall without us touching it, knowing any data, right? Like we don't get any data that how you're using it, right? Once it's running, just like once you have your Postgres or Redis, we don't know what you're storing in your Postgres or Redis.
Right. And it was the fact that, Postgres is coming into Taz, right? And Postgres is going to give a lot of functionality that's needed for this. Was that a consideration, or were you also looking, hey, yeah, Postgres is there. If you want to run this on platform, you can, but was it intended for Postgres on Taz, or were you looking primarily at off-platform databases for this?
That was just lucky timing. I think like part of this journey is learning all this stuff as we're building, right? Like once you have an LLM, what do you do with it, right? It's like, okay, so they have these things called embeddings, which is like taking your text form and turning it into like numeric values, so you can kind of search on that to kind of find similarities So we're like, oh, Postgres has embedding support. So how do we get? And then the Postgres tile was like, I think a month away when we got to this point, and we're like,
Yeah, a month
hey,
from being GA'd. Yeah.
we're like,
Great
hey,
timing.
can you add this feature for us? You just have to enable the extension, and they didn't have support for it, and so they ended up adding support for that. So they started GA with the embedding. So it was kind of perfect timing, and we kind of got to drive their roadmap slightly a bit there.
And how does this work on Taz, right? So, GPU support being out there, is an operator or a company who's wanting to do this, is this going to be, will you do isolation segments for GPU? Is the GPU just going to be considered, part of the foundation? How does that work to get this in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now it's just kind of it's a tile, so it deploys a VM separately outside of Taz, just like Redis or Postgres is deployed outside of it. And Bosh is the one managing the GPUs, right? Like a lot of GPUs, it's hard to use because of the software and the drivers you need to get it up and running. So Bosh does a great job of packaging, managing, keeping the VMs up. So we're able to deploy this large language model alongside of Taz and support it via the Service Broker API, which is a great API to allow users to consume this data.
Now, hold on. There's something there that I think you said is important, right? Because this is a tile, are you telling me that customers are now going to be able to come in and do generative AI the same way they do to connect to a database? This is going to be a CF create service, CF bind service. That's really what they're going to have to do here. It's that easy.
Yep, it's that easy, and that was kind of like the driving point of this. Is like once you have this, how does someone consume it? And Cloud Foundry has such an easy model with the Service Broker, right? We offer the open AI APIs, so customers and developers doesn't have to even rewrite the application if they're already writing for open AI. They just plug in and point to our URL with our API key, and that's as simple as that.
Wow, that's going to be huge. I mean, if you can take something as complex as AI and make it a CF create, CF bind, phenomenal.
We'll take that same CF push magic and extend it to generative AI, right? For sure.
CF push takes over the world. Right on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just a shout out to everyone watching live right now. I see a lot of good chats going on, so thanks for watching. What do we I guess should we got a pretty good background, so we have slides we want to get into. If we want to see it technically, we want to see how we can
do the demo.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Everybody loves demos.
Yeah.
I'm the least educated person here, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut except for questions when it comes to GenAI. Let y'all do your thing, but I'll keep an eye on the boards. If any questions come in, I'll bring them up as they happen.
All righty here. All right, so let's see how okay, let's get my screen going here. Are you guys okay if I do the demo? Hopefully.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's hope our demo guys are with us today.
Yeah. Yeah. They've been pretty good, but you never know. Yeah. Big shout out for Deshaun. Thanks so much for joining last week. We'll have to have you on here again here shortly.
Okay, so I just want to give a little background while you get this up. We gave this demo we gave like part of a talk about this at VMworld Barcelona. And I believe it was at Barcelona or one of the VMworlds. I remember after we gave it, the sound person came up to me and said, wow, CF Push was so amazing. I want this for my app, like my side hustle app.
Yeah.
And I felt like if we can get through to the sound person, like we could get through to anyone. That was a cool moment.
Well, and I think that's kind of the whole point of the podcast, right? Is, CF Push, Cloud Foundry, Taz, these are just products that just work. And people kind of forget that we're still iterating. We're still, we're doubling down on what we're doing with Taz and what a good product it is. So, besides just this is one of the outcomes that we're hoping is to rebuild the community, let people know about CF Push, because when we're starting to talk about Kubernetes and all the different ways you can do things, people think that paths to production have to be hard, and they don't. They can be as simple as here's my code, run it anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what do we have here? We have our Spring Music app Taylor's version. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna name. So I did a demo for Scott earlier on my team, so I need to not delete Scott Cloud. There we go.
This is where we try to bring in all the Swiftie fans, right?
CF Weekly, yeah. So we if you've seen or heard a Cloud Foundry demo, probably in the past decade, there's this app called Spring Music, right? And it's a Spring Boot application. You know, it was written before this whole like generative AI thing existed, right? But we have some awesome friends, you know, within the VMware Tanzu ecosystem, especially the Spring ecosystem. And we were able to get some help and embed this thing that we're calling Spring AI into this very classic or traditional Spring, you know, Java Spring application. So we'll see a little bit of you know, before and after of when like kind of the Spring AI modules activate. So let's go ahead and
we're doing a before first, right? This is like when we're not connected to the GenAI tile.
Yep.
This is our Spring Music.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, it's not up to date because Taylor's coming out with a new album next month, and I haven't added it. So
oh no,
let's make a note to add it. Soon.
We'll have to get a PR for that for sure. All right, so let's get the CF push going. So again, if you hadn't seen CF push, this is like our, you know, simplified path production. So we are you know, we're pushing this code up, and this is actually going to one of my test foundations in my home data center here, and hopefully we will, you know, get everything loaded up. And while that pushes, I'm gonna prep a terminal in another screen because we got some cool terminal things to show to you. Oh well.
Well, it's something we should work on, Nick, because being on your home system, people aren't going to be able to hit this and actually play with it. So maybe for the next episode when we're doing demos, we'll do this on a foundation that's live and out on the internet so that people can actually see it in progress. So we'll take note of that.
And if you are a internal employee to, you know, VMware by Broadcom, we have an internal foundation with this enabled too. So it is definitely up for you know, hit us up after the show. We can get you the details on that. All right, so we're pushing. It started. I gotta remember where my other ops manager is. Sorry.
Nikki, do you run a home lab like Nick does?
Not yet, but I am working on one. So, you know, right now, you know, I use public cloud for a lot of my demo labs, but I am working on something that I can keep up a little bit more permanently, cost a little bit less money.
I remember like too many GPUs like Nick.
Yeah. This costs. Let me know that this costs a little bit less money notion here. Yeah, but it's more of an obsession now at this point, I guess, personally. But anywho, all right. So let's go over to my other screen here. We should you know, be in what we call Apps Manager here, right? You know, this is where we our nice graphical user interface for Tanzu Application Service. Let's see, Kuhn Labs here. They go to Home Lab, or maybe GenAI samples.
I think you
look at Deshaun calling us the cool kids at lunch.
Yeah, I've done this now. Where did I push this? Was I in the wrong foundation here? This is what happens when you have too many labs. Well,
and it's the joy of doing things live, Nick.
CF API.
Look at Deshaun talking about he thinks he's at the cool kids at school or at lunch.
What org you pushing to?
KDC. I'm in KDC. Oh yeah, org. That's a good org. I bet I pushed to the system space. CF. I said just CF org, right? I should. Oh, CF org.
CF apps.
CF apps. Yeah. Radio chat. CF Weekly.
Labs.
Okay. CF Weekly. Okay, I was there. I just forgot what I called it, I guess, apparently. I may have done this demo a few times. Okay, so we're in Apps Manager. We got our app running. You know, you can see because it's a Spring app, we get a little secret sauce with Taz, and you get some of the Spring actuator endpoints visualized here. You can see that we're using an in-memory H2 database, so that's going to be come into handy here a little bit, or come into play. And we, if you wanted to, we could pull like threads and heap dumps out of this as well. But let's go ahead and get into the route here. So we less than a minute, we have this app running up in production, and this is where we get into the Taylor Swift theme of the show. We have our new or heavily modified Spring Music copy, Taylor's version, And if you've seen before, it's no longer classic rock albums. It's all about the classic albums of Taylor Swift, and apparently we'll need to add a few more here. So this is a pretty simple application. It was written to show these this concept of service bindings within Cloud Foundry, the Cloud Foundry marketplace, and Tanzu Application Service marketplace. So we have no services bound here, and this is where we can go ahead and add some services, right? So when we do that, when we add all of these things, right, the after this we'll see a Spring Music Assistant that's powered by Spring AI, and then we'll be able to start to do like generative AI things, right? So that's the whole premise, right? And the theory behind this is like we are able to take our existing like kind of platform and existing Spring kind of user base or our existing Spring apps, and then as these new technologies come out, like, hey, we should build a chatbot for our XYZ application or our XYZ product, right? This is kind of where we're coming to play here to hopefully we can help our customer base be able to do this pretty easily. All right, so let's see here. We're going to go to this thing called the marketplace, right? So we have the marketplace. There's many services in this marketplace. If you look at my ops manager for this foundation, it's got a lot of tiles. But we're going to go ahead and provision this GenAI service. So this is what we're talking about, right? So let's go ahead and select this plan. I'm not going to bind it to any application, but I'm going to call it CF. Can I do dashes? Weekly LLM 1. All right. So now we're going to make an instance name, bind it to GenAI samples, and click go. All right. So that's wiring up behind the scenes, ready to go. I've got some other ones that I provisioned as well. Let's see here. We can do this, and then let's go ahead and we talked about Postgres. Let's add our Postgres database. Again, we're gonna just request this Postgres database. Bosh, this thing we talked about earlier, is gonna go ahead and spin up this VM and wire it up and inject it into our platform without any issue. So let's go CF weekly DB01, right, and then go ahead and click create. All right, so that will take a few minutes. I didn't pre-baking show bake this yet. I don't know if we wanted to talk about some other topics.
You had one pre-baked, it looked like.
Yeah, we could probably just use that. I don't think I've used that before. So let's look. Let's go to services. So yeah, this demo 1012, I believe, has never been used. So part of that too is that when we bind this app, it starts populating tables, and it's easy just to create a new one and delete the old one, then try to go in there and manually delete the tables. So let's do that. So we're going to go into our CF Weekly Spring version and go to services. And now this is like, where like kind of the magic happens, right? You could also do this via the CF CLI if you'd want, but I'm just going to go and select, our CF Weekly LLM and bind that to our app. And then I'll also go ahead and bind the demo, this database. It's just another copy of that Postgres offering that we used that I already have stood up in my environment. So now these are bound to the environment. I'm gonna restart the application because it should pick it up without the full restage. So Spring is going to pick up these new environment variables that we're passing into via the VCAP bar packages, and then it's just kind of auto wire everything for us together, which is kind of the magic.
We have code in there, right? That says basically, if you see that you are bound to this GenAI service, then I want to use Spring AI. I want to bring up this chatbot, and we're gonna tell this AI about all of Taylor's albums.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So we can ask questions about it.
Yeah, and we can you can see the settings here, and I'll show the environment variables because this is all in my home lab, so you can't get to it even if you tried. But you can see where we're passing in the GenAI proxy for our AI service, and then even like the Postgres services as well. So we're able to just boom, get the services without really doing anything, just clicking a few buttons here and be ready to go. So now if we go back to our app here, we'll click refresh, and hopefully, boom, look, we have this new thing. It's hi, I'm your Spring Music Assistant. Ask me anything. We can really go crazy here. So I typically like to ask it questions about VMware Tanzu because it's got a lot of knowledge about Taylor Swift. We can I am open to other questions too if we want to go other places. Let me see if I can get into one of the worker nodes here too to see some of
What
our
if, because we did
GPU.
give it the information about Taylor Swift's albums, but you're right. It's hard to know that because this large language model already knows a lot about Taylor Swift from the internet. So it doesn't prove too much. Can we make our own album and then ask it questions about our album?
Sure.
Can we have an album just the 4 of us that we made?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. So we can add an album. All right. So what do we want to call it? I guess that's the first question. Should we like ask it about Cloud Foundry Weekly, or what do you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the artist is going to be Cloud Foundry. Oh, I've already done this. I forgot about this. All right. And then album title. What do we think? Season 2.
GenAI.
GenAI for Taz. Maybe episode 2, right? I guess because this is episode 2. GenAI for Taz, episode 2. That's kind of a weird album title, so we'll see how it does for that. Release year this year. Genre, I guess podcast, right? And what do we want to do from a user review? Who wants to write the review of this epic album we're about to create? Anyone?
I want to talk about how great Nikki's NPR voice was.
Okay, Amelia likes.
And today on Cloud Foundry Weekly, we're going to be talking about GenAI.
Nikki's NPR voice, right? Does that make? That doesn't really?
Yeah,
that's fine.
And
sure.
Long, what else should we add?
Is on the show.
Nick's really good at these demos now. He's gotten quite good at giving live demos.
Yeah, and Nick has done too many of these demos. Yes. Okay. And then user score, obviously 100. Right? It's got to be. Okay. We'll click OK, and then we should just be able to like sort by review. Right. So now we can see that, and we see that we added an album. Right. So this is a brand new album, and this is, I believe,
demo. We forgot to ask the question first.
Oh well, we could still, we could ask it about like, yeah, that's true. We should ask that, but we could show you. We can fix this here. How about this? What album? I got out of here. So let's just we can do this. So let's just ask it about this album we just made, right? So like, what album did the artist Cloud Foundry Weekly produce? Right, and you ask it a question. Hopefully, we can. Is my text look okay? Do you want to make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
Maybe.
We should show the GPU.
Looks good.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Oh, let's do that next. Let's start here, and then we can do the GPUs.
All right, let's see how good we do, and then I'll make sure this SSH screen I got on the other screen. Yeah, it's working here. So producing here. So and these are running on Nguyen data center GPUs, so they are not the latest NVIDIA GPU. So it is a little slow sometimes.
So Nick, what's going on behind this? Or sorry, Long, what's going on behind the scenes here when we ask this?
So what's going on right now is we're taking the question and sending it back to the backend to the LLM, and this is the LLM model, like using the GPU to process all this, right? Like we have when we created the album, we created an embedding with all this information. So when we ask it a question, we pass the same information to the LLM, and it kind of like sanitizes it and makes it like sound better for us, because LLMs, they just like to talk. So if you give it stuff to talk about, it talks about things.
Yeah. It definitely. I've noticed throughout some of these demos that the sometimes it likes to add a bunch of color and things. So we got the result back now, right? So the album produced by artist Cloud Foundry Weekly is titled GenAI for Taz Episode 2, and was released in 2024. It's a podcast album, so that's like checkbox home run. The AI did right. And in terms of, and now this is where we start to see some of the color of these models, right? In terms of critical reception, Amelia liked how great Nikki's NPR voice is on the album, but Nick has done too many of these demos. So it's interesting how that wrote that out.
Yeah, I was able to interpret it a little bit.
Yeah, even some of the tone, right? Maybe it's listening right now. Who knows? And then now this is real, like this is this whole block here is some additional color here. This album is unique and innovative work that explores the intersection of technology and art. Okay, yeah, and it just continues
it
on.
knows that they're albums, right? When we put them in and we store them as embeddings, we say this is an album, and so the LLM it says, okay, I know this is art, but they're telling me it's this tech thing, and it says with a score of 100, must be innovative.
Yes, exactly. And then the track listing for is GenAI intro. So now it's started to make some tracks as well. So and then I don't know. So anyway, you can see some of these results, and even if you ask it the same question, it will probably get a little bit more concise on that response. But this is
Sean wants to try to trip you up here. He wants to know what the AI's favorite NFL team is.
Okay. What is your favorite NFL team? Now we're really going off the books here.
But the length and the style of these responses are really based on how we asked the LLM to respond, right? You can tune that in the app and say, I want terse responses, or I want you to really go outside of the box, or I really want you to stay within the box.
Right. And this is pretty, I don't have any personal preferences or emotions as an AI language model, including favorite NFL team. So sorry, Deshaun, it's taken a very neutral stance on any kind of favoritism within the NFL. But
well, this brings up a good question, right? So when it talks about what I've been trained on, so does the AI ML tile, does that participate in training, or is that all done outside of the foundation?
So this is all done outside of the foundation. So the AI model is kind of downloaded from Hugging Face. Hugging Face is, if you think about it, it's like the GitHub of open AI models out there, right? Like they host a bunch of large language models, and these models change almost like every 3 months of what's the coolest and hippest, right? Like when we first started this, Llama 2 was the cool model that all the cool kids liked. Right now it's Mistral. Like this technology is ever evolving, and the tile kind of lets you kind of pick the tile from Hugging Face to kind of let you evolve with it. As you can kind of see, like this is a way for like application developers to kind of put their data in a certain way and have people who are non-technical ask questions and understand their data better, right? Like you can kind of extrapolate this as like a new way to interface with your application. In the future, we hope to have like AI models like, hey, what apps am I running in this space? And what CVEs do we have running? You can start seeing the world that like can be created on top of this. And now the GenAI tile is kind of like this first starting point, right? Like I think developers are going to have a field day on like trying to come up with crazy different ways to interact with our data. We have so much data; it's like hard to like sift through the data. And like as we start building stuff like this, right? Like Nick just quickly added a model, and now it can kind of understand the new data that we passed into it. That's so powerful. So we can take a whole like HR document, like can we wear shoes in the office, like and try to understand all that.
Can you in your
the use cases here are really infinite, right? I mean, it could be internal, right? You could do, like you said, the HR stuff. It could be a way for application developers to put in kind of natural language on their applications. What kind of products does my company support, or maybe even like a troubleshooting bot.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think too, with this solution, right, we're really empowering the Cloud Foundry community to really kind of build things on top of that, right? It's really like we aren't trying to ship you like a enterprise chat GPT. It's more like we're shipping you ways to make your own custom chatbots and custom things that are used generative AI. So I think that's a big kind of delineation there too as well. So it's all about the custom use cases your company might have to build out an HR chatbot or things like that, or whatever. Whatever's really specific to your business. I think that's where the power is. Yeah. So,
and also like behind the scenes, like, there's so much like work and energy taking to like getting a large language model up and running. If you kind of like, hey, how do you run a large language model? And there's like 8 different ways to run it. You need a certain GPU and certain configurations. We aim to kind of make it easy for an operator, right? Like a TAS operator just installs the tile and has Cloud Foundry up and running. So it's the same thing with the tile. We're installing all the software and making it easy for someone to start using this.
Yeah.
Like Findsy stated, imagine the potential for support portals, right? Your own private corporate AI virtual assistants. A lot of potential there.
Ooh, all right. So we can ask it one more question here. Although I might have to back this zoom in a little. 250 might be too much for split screen here. But let's see here. Let's how about let's use this. Let's add another album, right? And
I think Nikki should go solo.
Nick, what do you mean? Oh, like
this is his solo album.
Oh, okay, all right.
I've got an NCR voice. I do not have a singing voice.
It's only the second episode.
All drum solos.
I'm getting kicked off already. All right, yeah. All right, Nikki's. How about Nikki's hot takes?
Oh, Nick's hot takes. Okay.
No, sorry.
Nikki out of it.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm really used to writing Nick for some reason. I don't know why. Hot takes on.
Yeah, we couldn't have found two people to make this more confusing with a Nick and a Nikki, being co-hosts.
I need a theme song.
Yeah. We haven't got any theme song or merch or anything yet, but one day we will, right? For sure.
I don't know why, but somehow Limp Bizkit's breaking stuff comes to mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe we could use generative AI to make a theme song. Who knows? All right. Cloud Foundry.
We lost a Nick. Okay, came back.
Am I here? Am I breaking up or am I okay?
Now you're back.
Okay. All right. User score.
I clicked the wrong button and took you off stage for a second.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to lower the user score down to 95 now. What's our user review? So we're writing an album, or Nikki produced an album, and let's see here.
I'm going to say impressive drum solos, but
yes.
I would have liked a little more vocals.
Amelia liked the impressive drum solos, but she would have really liked, was it a little more
cowbell? I agree, Deshaun. More cowbell.
A little more, oh yeah, oh boy. SNL reference, a little bit more cowbell. Right? Always need more cowbell, right? All right, so let's hit OK before I click out of that. You might have seen this. We got a little tiny blip here on the right-hand screen. Oops, that's the wrong. Maybe zoom in here. On this blue line, I'm not sure if that's coming well on the Zoom, but on the stream. But that's essentially the GPU processor. So we made an album. We just made an embedding, and that used a little bit of that GPU compute to process that embedding, right? Okay.
It reminds me of Tetris every time I see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then when he asks it a really hard question, it's just like straight 100%. So, all right, maybe I'm gonna zoom out a little bit too because it's getting a little hairy on some of these albums. So now we have 2 albums by Cloud Foundry. Let's ask it another question, or let's ask the same questions. We'll see. Maybe we'll do the same, but add what albums, right? Did the artist Cloud Foundry Weekly produce?
Let's see that GPU do some work.
Yeah, right.
Right, so now it turns this question into an embedding, and it compares it against the other embeddings that it has.
Yeah, ooh, that was really fast. Look at that. It's the.
Oh, there it is.
The NV top is lagging the response a little bit here, but
we should ask you how do we feel about Nikki's hot takes on Cloud Foundry to see what?
Or how does the user community? The user
guys, I think I have a future at Pitchfork.
How does the user community feel about Nikki's hot takes?
Yeah.
Feel about the album? Nikki's
everything about Nikki's hot takes sounds wrong. Just 100% wrong.
I'm sorry. It's already in the database. We can't delete it now. All right. All right. Well, yeah. So we'll think of a better thing next. So this should really kind of probably push the GPU a little bit here. It is interesting to see there is a bit of the NV top has a bit of a lag now. So yeah, we're seeing 90.
Working.
Yeah, the GPU 96%, 45. Ooh, man, this Tesla P40 is really coming through right now. It's if you're looking for a GPU, it's only about $140-$50 on eBay right now. So pretty good for the AI stuff right now. Let's see. According to the user, Amelia liked the impressive drum solos on the album, but she would have preferred a little bit more cowbell. So the most important part made it through, right? However, she also mentioned that she likes Nicki's NPR voice on the album, and the album scores 95, indicating positive reviews. And then it used the two embeddings, the two different albums. So it looks like we may have. Did we have the NPR was on the other album as well? So it merged two of the albums a bit together on the review, but getting pretty close as well. And I think too, some of this is we see here, this is still a relatively simple application, but we were talking with the Spring AI team, and Mark Pollock was talking to some of our customers in the actual beta live, and they're kind of covering this topic about hallucination and how you can use the AI to baseline, have like a baseline set of questions to fact check itself to make sure that as you're building this custom applications and use the AI to ask it, compare its first response against its baseline set of questions to help really kind of really fine tune and ensure that it's provide a little bit more of an accurate response. So obviously if it's got more into an enterprise situation, we'd probably have some folks to help out there as well. So.
And I like that it shows what documents it used, right? So that way you can see and fact check. And I think that like kind of functionality that's like, okay, where are you getting these sources from? Comes like is that higher level functioning comes from Spring AI, right? They allow that kind of question easily.
Yeah. And you could, if this were an internal application, you could say, here's the documents that I referenced. Go to this internal web page and fact check it yourself if you need to, type of thing as well.
Perhaps. Well, and I think that's an important thing to note here, right? This is something that we spun up. I mean, we watched it live, we spun it up, but the training of this determines the outcome as well, right? So, while we're providing the connection in the front end of this, there's still a lot that's got to go on the back end to make sure that the model's there, it's unbiased, it's trained properly, right? And I'm guessing that through this and through Happy Face, this is self-learning, right? I mean, if we went in and said, hey, we don't care about the Gen AI for Taz episode 2, would it revise its output?
So that's what's cool about like what we have set up here is like this data is only stored in his application in his Postgres database. Like my application would have access to his database, so I don't know anything about Gen AI for Taz. What we're doing is like taking data and passing it to the LLM. It's like here's a list of documents to use to ask my question. So this is kind of every application developer can have their own isolated database with their own data. So they, in the same way, like a Rails app doesn't have access to someone else's Rails database. So this is kind of like a way for you as a developer to have your own private data in your own private application, all running within Taz in like your own private data center, right?
Yeah, but
or
if
expand
we were
that to.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, or expand that to use a common database across multiple applications, right? But using a different front end for it. Sorry, Amelia. I
no, absolutely, right? That's the power of the service bindings, right? You can bind the same service to multiple things, and then all of a sudden they share the database and they share their embeddings.
Gotcha. Excellent. Would y'all want to take a question? We got one that came in from LinkedIn. Would y'all like to take that question?
Sure. What is the question?
So
I should be able to find this.
Godwin Josh asked this question. So talking about the exploration of GenAI and Tanzu Application Service, it makes it a compelling approach. In your experience, how do you see the interplay between the large language models and Java, especially using Spring AI for building AI-enabled Cloud Foundry apps?
I think
I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste that in so we can throw it up on the screen. But this is coming in from LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think our Spring team has been working hard. In Python, there's a lot of different libraries called like LangChain and Llama Index. Our Spring AI team has been kind of bringing all that over to Java and Spring AI, which is usually is to make everything easier, right? Like for us to rewire this up to our Spring Music app with fewer lines of code, right? It's very easy. They generate the embeddings for us, and all we had to do is change a few lines of code, and we did some JavaScript front end to kind of show the chatbot. But it's starting to show the approach of like, hey, like as a Spring developer, you're able to kind of just bring in AI quickly. We're kind of that easy way to bring in the service binding and all the ecosystem with Taz and Cloud Foundry to like CF create service, CF bind service, right? We don't have many of those bindings. I know like AWS has Bedrock and all these cloud services have different ways, but they don't have easy bindings that goes to Cloud Foundry. So we're doing kind of like the complete life cycle for a developer to have.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things about Spring AI is that like a lot like what Long said, a lot of the libraries are written in Python. So if you're not a Python developer, if you're a Java developer, right, you don't want to switch over to using a Python app, writing a Python app, you want to stay in Java. And so Spring AI lets you do that. Like I'm a Golang person, there's not libraries right now in Golang to do this. So I have to change languages and get Long's help when I want to do things like this. So it's good to see Spring AI and the Spring team pushing the language forward in that way and keeping Spring relevant in this space.
Yeah, and comments too from Deshaun, who is one of our most notable Spring advocates. It's really making that easy button for AI, and we do have live customers who've kind of tested this out already, and like this whole like hypothesis of like you have your Spring developers and like they get a request to like make an AI thing like a chatbot, and like here you go, like here's this tile platform engineers, you can now easy button to provision generative AI private generative AI service for your entire developer community on your platform. And then you can have your developers use like Spring AI to really just kind of bootstrap really easily. And they're already making apps and going I think a lot faster than we even anticipated within this program. So that's pretty awesome too. I think that just kind of solidifies our hypothesis that Spring AI and GenAI for Taz are going to work pretty well together. So I guess like
and that's the whole point of platform as a service, right? Platform as a service is to be that easy button. It's to take a lot of that complexity off the developers and put it in. When we talk about Spring AI, like Deshaun said, it makes it accessible to people that maybe don't want to learn something new. They want to stay within their own swim lane. And that's what Cloud Foundry, Taz, that's what they do. They make things accessible. They make things easy for the developers. Adding GenAI on that just expands the possibilities.
Yeah, and to expand a little bit on that, is like I've talked to some people who were trying to run some of these large language models on Kubernetes. When they fall over, they're like scrambling to fix it forever, right? Like we have Bosh as a quick tool to like Bosh recreate VM. We're back up and running in a few minutes, right? Like all the software is up and running. With kind of like Kubernetes and platforms, is like GPUs aren't very easy to share within containers. So you're giving a container like root access to the machine just to access the GPU and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it again shows the really power of Bosh, and it's been this great tool that we've had for quite some time, and it's really, really good at orchestrating deployment of like complete infrastructure thing. So this is very much you have to build this net new private AI or generative AI infrastructure. What better use to use this tool that's been building whole platforms or whole databases or messaging buses for years now in a very reliable and efficient way. And not only the initial building, but like the day 2 or the day 1,000 maintenance and upgrading, in place upgrades, and the whole concept of repaving. It's just taken care of by using Bosh. So that's another great thing too, that I think it's really just have that private AI easy button to land for you. Okay.
Well, and I think this comment just nails it, right? It allows you to be able to access these things without having to change your code. That's huge, right? How much refactoring goes into when somebody wants to pick up a new technology, especially when we're talking about something as complex as AI, right? The fact that Spring AI lets you do that without having to change your code. The fact that you can now create this service and bind it to your application and start having a natural language, interaction with your app. That's huge. I mean, these are all things that the developers are clamoring for, and that we're happy to say that we're listening, we're providing and getting out there for you.
And I like this point too. So just like we talked a lot about Spring, and at VMware Tanzu and VMware by Broadcom, we like Spring a lot, but we Cloud Foundry and Tanzu Application Service is polyglot. So we have build packs for a lot of the main languages, most of them, Python, Go, Ruby, etc. So, this service could be used by any kind of really language, right? Too. So we also want to make sure that if we don't want to exclude anyone either. We have a solution regardless of really what language you want to use for sure. But obviously we have some opinions about Spring and preference and things. But no matter what you use, you should be covered. Okay, we are 82 live. So again, second episode, and I think we're doing pretty great. So thank you all for continuing. Again, 82. Like I remember last time we were about 55 minutes in and had about 80 some people again. So thank you all for staying so long and listening. This has been a great show. Do we have any other things that we want to cover, or go from there, or any other kind of last takes or notes before we kind of sign off for the day as we're reaching our time?
Okay, I have one question for you all to sign off with. What do you use AI for in your private life?
I think my wife uses GPT all the time. She's asking questions all the time. Like I'm still like reaching for Google, but like she just got rid of Google and just uses ChatGPT.
Okay, no more Google. So you use ChatGPT instead of Google. How about you, Nick?
Yeah.
Well, I use this. I use my home lab a lot to like ask questions. So I've been another use case which we didn't show. Right, you can run additional models, and I've been trying to toy with some coding and things. And I like to use the code generation things. Like there's like a VS plugin called Continue.dev. And you can wire that up to a large language model. And just so happen, I have a bunch of LLMs running in my basement. So I wire them up to that and then use it to do little code snippets and hey, how do I write this Spring Boot thing? And it'll mostly get it right and things like that, and help me kind of teach me how to code, I guess, in a nutshell, so to speak, without having to pay tokens or some other service type of thing.
How about you, Nikki?
Mine's almost embarrassing. I use mine to help me wordsmith documents and emails going out. I use that quite a bit. And then also to Nick's point, my tagline is I am not a developer, and I'm an infrastructure guy. So I do, and I have used it to help me with some scripting and some of the coding that I've gotten out there with some of the developers that are on platform, helping answer some of those questions that involve code that I'm not the best to do. But at least it gives me a starting point, and it's been phenomenal for that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be the next few years. We'll start to continue to see really kind of rapid innovation in this space. So I'm just excited about, what else we'll get to do with this, and then there's no shame about wordsmithing or using any kind of AI to help with that too. I use Grammarly a lot, which I guess is not necessarily, this, but I think it's got a lot behind the scenes, and just using using this to summarize a document or a meeting, right? So some of my colleagues on my team will take transcripts of super long meetings, and we'll send it to the Tanzu GPT bot internally to summarize that document, and just to get a summary of if you don't have time to attend that full meeting, just to see what happened, or get kind of the cliff notes too. So that's another interesting use case as well.
Well, and I noticed even LinkedIn is doing that, right? So LinkedIn now they've got their beta of use your AI to rewrite this post for you. So may have to give that a try.
Yeah. So then Deshaun running Raspberry Pi with Spring AI. Oh, nice. Ooh, that's on the edge right there for sure. So another vote for summarizing meetings and things. All right.
Definitely use it for conference talk titles.
Oh yes. Nice. Get catchy titles. You gotta have the catchy title to get you gotta get in. You gotta catch that attention.
Let's not forget logos, Nick. Cloud Foundry Weekly, the logo.
Yes. Right? Yes. Yeah. So yes, everything you see Cloud Foundry Weekly branded. It's definitely not produced by me in any way, shape, or form. We got into Canva, and they already have Canva has a generative AI thing, type in words, and it makes images. So I typed in Cloud Foundry Weekly and sorted through 100 of them, and kind of got what we have so far today. So yeah.
Can I share my
Amelia, Long?
absolutely most favorite thing before we go? It's just like
Yes,
my favorite
go
thing I
for
did
it.
with ChatGPT.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I did a vacation to Scotland, and I'm a postcard person, so I sent a lot of postcards. And I
Mhm.
wrote what I wanted to say, and then I had ChatGPT translate it into a Scottish brogue, so I could write all my postcards in a Scottish accent when I sent
Nice.
them.
That is awesome.
So this is
Nice.
the important things that I do with AI.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Long, Amelia, we thank y'all for y'all's time. It was a great episode. We got up to, we're almost, if we can get one more person, we'll break 90 viewers for this episode. It was a great episode for everybody that's listening. Next week, we're going to have another episode with a special guest by the name of Chris Phillipson, where we're going to be talking about CF Tool Suite. So things like CF Butler, tools that will help platforms engineers manage their platform and take care of their platform. So make sure you join us for that. Nick, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Well, we just hit 90 right now, an hour in, so that's
Woo-hoo!
amazing. And then so we have socials out there. So cloudfoundryweekly.com. All of our episodes are getting then transformed into a podcast version. So you should be able to pick that up in any we go to a lot of use Transistor to go to pretty much any of the podcast places. So Spotify, Amazon, all the different ones. So hopefully if you want to listen via podcast, go for there, cloudfoundryweekly.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow our YouTube channel where we're also live streaming right now, on Twitter, CF Weekly. So yeah, any of our following our socials, helping promote our content. We have had a great first 2 episodes. We have many more coming down the road. So thank you all for listening. Continue to listen. If you want to listen or become a part of it, like join on an episode, you can shoot us a message, probably like on LinkedIn would be great too. And we can try to work in the schedule. So, thanks again to Long and Amelia so much for joining us. And we're happy to, see you next time. Right.
Thanks for having us.
One small
Thanks.
correction on Twitter, it's CF_weekly. So look for us on Twitter on CF_weekly.
Yes.
But we'll see you all next week, and everybody have a great day. And
Okay.
for our sign off, thanks to Abu, CF bye.
CF bye. All right.
All right. Y'all take care.